introduce our speaker for the month, and that is Maureen O'Kane. One part of a history that I always appreciate is that until she was, I think, 25 years old, she believed that evolution was a fact, and why even question it? And then she started to read the Bible, I believe, and then came to faith, and then came to understand, hey, the Bible has something to say about creation, and we know from a science perspective that there is a lot of evidence for that creation. So she's going to talk about our unique solar system. Their secular scientists say, well, it just happened, the Big Bang process and all these planets and stars came about, and we have a different perspective of that, and Maureen is going to explain that to us.
Oh, thank you. When we were setting up and practicing, I was told that I am of short stature, and so when I do this, I disappear. So just want to let you know, I will stay out here, but let me know you guys can see me. Okay. I need the solar system, come on up. We have a homeschool family here. Ben and Amy and their 4 beautiful children are here, and they're here for the first time. So why don't we give them an Apologetics Forum welcome. They are raising young scientists for tomorrow, so take us home. Okay. I became, you heard, I was raised in a very secular home. In fact, my whole family is still evolutionists, and most of them are not believers. But when I read that Bible and read the direct, I started with Genesis and thought, wow, he created that to be that. And I felt so good because my mom used to say, well, we're going to go to the zoo today and see our cousins. And the cousins were kind of crude, right? And watching monkeys at a zoo. And so to see that, it was like, oh, I'm lifted up because I was made in his image, not the result of random mutations. Okay, our solar system. Kids, are you ready? And everybody's a child at heart tonight, right? Okay, what I use when I go to schools is I use this mnemonic. My very eager mother just sat upon Neptune, and I make a balloon with Neptune, and when I sit on it, it pops, and the kids never forget. So, my starts with an M, ends with a Y. What's the first planet? And next one. Next. My very eager mother, Mars, just sat. And now this one's pronunciation has changed, and I change it a bit more. When I go to schools, I call it Uranus. Way easier. I don't get the giggles with that one. So Uranus and Neptune. And so these are rocky planets, these are gas giants, these are called ice giants. Our solar system is actually very flat. The planets lie in the same orbital plane pretty much. Venus is a few degrees above, so otherwise, you can look straight across at the planets, and they're pretty much lined up to the equator of the sun. Not a coincidence. You're going to see the fingerprints of God. Everything he doesn't do random. It's perfectly planned. Mercury, named after the fake god of speed. Behold, I come quickly, and my reward is with me. Before I even speak or have a word on my tongue, he knows it. I picture when he comes back, he's like, I'm back. He's the fastest God in the universe. It's ridiculous that we made up something. It's our God is the fastest God in the universe. So now we're going to learn about Mercury, and every planet has kind of a claim to fame. So Mercury's pretty tiny, whipping around the sun every 88 days. It's 800 degrees by day, night minus 290. You would not hear me speaking because there's no atmosphere, so I'd be standing up here going. And so, but there's people that love sunshine and quiet for your ideal vacation, right? This is the place for you. Mercury's a little larger, but it's more cratered than our moon with areas of flat plains in those colors. I wish it looked like that. That'd be such a cool thing to have a rainbow planet. But purple is low and white is high as far as altitude. Mercury, its claim to fame is it has the largest crater. It's almost 1,000 miles across. And here's a close-up. Yeah, very cool. Now this is something, it also has it as a not found on any other planet. It has unique hollows as seen by MESSENGER. They appear bright and young. There's constant kind of dust coming in from space, and so typically it doesn't look so shiny and young. And so Here's a nuclear physicist, and you met Heinz as a nuclear physicist. Here's a fellow one. In 1984, Russell Humphreys predicted Mercury's magnetic field would decrease quickly after 1975. We had an orbiter up there then, due to his belief in a young solar system. And so in 2008, Messenger compared, because he's very well respected, and so the NASA astronomers and the Messenger project scientists, they did compare. And indeed, it was less. All because he believed in creation. He believed in a young solar system. He was right. Never think if you believe in the Bible, it's like behind the times. We're ahead. The Bible, we are still trying to catch up with the Bible. Here's the headlines. Science News. Planet Mercury has molten core. NASA researchers find. We would read that and think, okay. You'd have to read the article. If Mercury is 4.6 billion years old, its core should be solid with a constant, not changing magnetic field. Its fluctuation requires a liquid and young iron core. And some astronomers have said, so how did Mercury get there? And there's this theory, it's actually called the Grand Tack theory, and it's that it migrated past, so imagine it comes from space and it's getting past Jupiter and Saturn and making its way to the sun. I mean, that's kind of ridiculous, right? Venus, named after the fake god of love. Beloved, let us love one another, for love is of God, and everyone that loves is born of God and knows God. Our God is love personified. He is love. It's not he is a loving person. He is love. Okay, Akatsuki, this is Japan's imager. Look at that. Isn't that gorgeous? Venus in infrared reveals the warmth of the atmosphere on its nocturnal side. But isn't that beautiful? Look at the clouds. It's so pretty. Okay, Venus's upper atmosphere, here's what's amazing. It whips around the planet like howling hurricane winds. Every 4 days it's but the planet goes around the sun before it even turns once on its axis. It's going that slow. So kids, if you go to Venus, go for a year. Let's see, no, a day is longer than a year. Yeah, so go for a year, you'll come back sooner than the people that went for the day. It goes around, yeah. You shouldn't even go to Venus anyway, but if you do. So it goes around the sun before it turns once. So this planet's barely moving, and yet the atmosphere, how is that happening? Venus, now look at this is a Venus Express project scientist. He said Venus is rotating, so the planet itself, it's slowed down, slower than it was 16 years ago. It is difficult to find a mechanism that will cause the average rotation. Can you imagine the rotation of a planet? What is causing it to slow down in only 16 years? Big change, little time. Evolution is little change, big time. And you're going to see that through the planets. Big changes over little periods of time. But what would be the mechanism? Of course, we know it's God, but what would be the mechanism if you leave God out of it? What would slow down a planet? Here's a hydrogeologist. When we measure Venus's rotation, we keep getting different answers. Right now, Venus's atmosphere is the big deal we're studying. Now, I want you to see this bow right here. While the clouds are flying around Venus, that bow stays still. Wow. Does that make sense in the physics world? And so they're thinking somehow below it is a landmass, and they think somehow the air is hitting it, and coming up and making this bow cloud, and it just sits there. And you can see there's some clips of it, and everything's moving except for this, and it just stays, and all these clouds go. See, God, we're designed to research and discover and study. It's so fascinating to study his creation. Okay, European Space Agency's Venus Express measured increase. So the planet itself is slowing down, and look what's happening with the atmosphere. The wind speed increased from 186 to 249 miles per hour in 6 years. Whoa! The planet's slowing down, but the atmosphere's speeding up. Here's another thing. There's a theory about Venus is in the last 500 million years, there was a lot of volcanic activity and it resurfaced Venus. So it's just basically lava field. But look at the Venus Express saw what looks like an active volcano. And when they arrived in 2006, welcome everybody, the spacecraft recorded a significant increase in sulfur dioxide followed by a sharp decrease. They think that was a volcanic explosion. And then, so it's still active, which means it's young. Phases of Venus. So here we are, Earth, right here, right there, and here's the sun, and you can see they're very similar to the moon. When Galileo studied Venus through a telescope, he observed all of its phases, confirming Copernicus's prediction that Venus revolved around the sun, not the Earth. Venus advanced our scientific knowledge. And Jesus uses the sun as a symbol of him in Scripture, so it makes sense. Of course he's at the center of the solar system. His presence was at the center of Israel. He should be the center of our lives. Venus transited the sun in 2012 for the last time this century, and again, because Venus has just a few degrees orbital difference, we see it usually above or below the sun, so when they transit, it goes across the face of the sun. That's unusual. So look what was done with that. In 1769, scientists around the world, including James Cook in Tahiti, made detailed measurements of Venus's transit across the sun. They were able to, they're in different countries, they could triangulate the size of the sun, its distance from the Earth, and distances to other planets. Venus, God put it there so we could advance and learn more about our solar system. Because haven't you ever wondered, why are these other planets here? Okay, who named Earth? The other ones were Roman gods. Who named Earth? Ella has the answer. God. And why do you know that? Thank you, Ella. Good job. God called the dry land Earth. Now, the pagans called it Gaia. In fact, if you know of any pagans, they're actually kind of making a comeback here. But Gaia is what they call Earth, but yet we call it Earth. And you look back, and who named Earth? The fact that we call it Earth, it was God. Even the heavens are the Lord's, but the earth he has given to the children of men. We are made for this planet. This planet was made for us. It is I who made the earth and created man upon it. We were not shipped from another planet, shipped on a comet, dropped here, or aliens. I've heard it all in these presentations. He created man upon the earth, and the earth was made for us. What a gift. Okay, Mars, named after the fake god of war. And there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought with his angels and did not win. Sometimes we get beaten down by the devil, and we forget. He's lost. Right? He lost at the cross. He's kicked out of heaven. I know he's a lion that goes about seeking to devour, but he has no teeth. And we just have to draw near to God, and he will draw near to us. And when we resist the devil, what does he do? Flee. He doesn't meander, right? Doesn't walk away. He flees. I always have to keep that image in my mind. Okay, Mars, minus 60 by day, minus 100 by night. And of course, we're wanting to colonize Mars. And I just heard there's been a decision to first go to the moon. I think the program is called Gateway. And from the moon, we're going to go to Mars. Bill Nye, he's an atheist evolutionist. And he said, it's really cold up there, right? And I keep thinking minus 60, minus 100. Isn't hypothermia somewhere in the conversation, right? Okay, Mars has 2 moons, and it used to be believed that these moons, because they're so oddly shaped and their orbits so strange, that these were captured asteroids from the asteroid belt by Mars, but they looked at the composition and it's the same as Mars. So these are the moons of Mars. But Phobos rises in the west. It orbits 3 times faster than Mars' rotation. Now, lunar formation theory is that there's planets and chunks are flying off, and so some of these chunks were captured and became the moon. So how could it go faster than its mother planet? Smaller, slower Deimos rises in the east. Both revolve around Mars at the equator and raise questions about lunar formation. Okay, here's Happy Face Crater. I love it. I think when the angels saw our camera, they went, here they come. It's also known as Gal Crater, greeted our Mars orbiter in 1999. You've got to admit that is so cute. And there's Mars' thin, hazy atmosphere hovers above Happy Face. Now, gravity is 38% of Earth's, which means our bones would begin to dissolve. That's probably the least of our problems, getting up there or being there. Dust storms last for weeks, and right now Mars, you're going to see it like July 30th or 31st, is completely covered with a dust storm. But don't worry, pioneers on Mars are going to live underground, right? We've all wanted to do that, right? Yeah, right. Okay, Mars has beautiful topography. Here's the South Pole, believed to be carbon dioxide. It's kind of flat-topped mesas with dry ice. And here's a 3D image of Chasma Boreal. That's a canyon reaching into the North Polar Cap. The walls rise about 4,600 feet. It's very dramatic. Look at, there's a high-rise is the highest resolution camera we have up there. What do these look like? Anything? Anything on Earth that these... Rice paddies? love that. Rice paddies, what about, somebody said toenails one time. I didn't think that. What's those little things on the beach? Is it chitons, limpets? What's those? Yeah. Okay, here's Valles Marineris. That's that canyon you see. It's 2,500 miles wide, 5 miles deep. Our Grand Canyon is 1 mile deep. If you've ever been there, you can, just try to imagine 5 miles. And our country is 2,600 miles across. It would almost stretch across the United States. And notice the volcanoes on the left. You should count 3 of them. And here's the biggest one. Mars has the largest, biggest canyon, largest volcano. It's called Olympus Mons, 16 miles high. Mount Everest is 5.5, and it would cover Arizona. Wow. And Mars is like half the size of Earth. It's teeny. Frosted dunes in the southern hemisphere. Mars has a lot of sand dunes. So if you're going there, bring your dune buggy. Here's black dunes, which is interesting because usually it's a reddish hue in the sand, but this is, Curiosity found these. Now, in 1976, for the young people here, we did not have internet, so NASA received a lot of letters going, oh my word, there's Martians, we knew it, because of this picture. Well, once they had better technology, they wanted to assure, because it's our tax dollars that are supporting them, that they're not hiding Martians up there, and it turned out to just be, look at that, it's just a mesa. But it's a good principle for us is things are not always as they seem, right? We jump to conclusions often. Okay, I call this Lot's wife. It looks like she's saying, I forgot and she's this little stone. It's, Spirit took this picture and it revived the rumors about Martians. So, this is Spirit, and you can see Spirit has dust on its solar panels. Can you find Lot's wife? I'm going to give you a clue. She's 2 inches tall. So much for rumors that there's really Martians up there that are 2 inches tall. Okay, Martian dust devil. These are often going across the surface. And of course, if you're from the Midwest, right? These dust devils, you see them, Wyoming. My husband's from Nebraska. But what's cool is when they go across the surface, look what they leave. Pretty sand art, because they spin around and the lighter colored dust leaves, and you see the darker sand beneath. Okay, Curiosity, nuclear-powered 17 cameras, $2.5 billion. Here it is looking back at its tracks, and so there's a great picture of Mars. You see how it's very monochromatic, different shades of beige. Okay, its mission to determine landing site habitability, study climate and geology of Mars, and collect data for manned mission to Mars. Now, because we're planning to go to the moon first, Mars is just going to be a research place where people go and research and come back instead of one-way ticket there and try to survive. So that's a better sell, according to the people that want to go there. Humans to Mars Summit in May 2013 met at George Washington University. NASA Chief Bolden and Buzz Aldrin met with CEOs of Google, Boeing, National Geographic. If you go to the website, there's like 30 or 40 big money organizations to go to Mars by 2030s. And Elon Musk of Tesla, he's one of the ones. He wants to actually die on Mars. I know. The fact there's no breathable air or drinkable water, yeah, might be kind of easy. Okay, so here's the challenges. Radiation exposure. The day after Curiosity landed, now this is from NASA, and I had to really dig through their pages to find this because I've never seen this, broadcast to the general public. The day after Curiosity landed, radiation was measured for 3.5 hours. So they're measuring it after it lands. Now, NASA has a deal breaker amount of radiation that the astronauts can be exposed to, and then they will stop the program. Okay. So radiation levels measured on Mars during this period of quiet solar activity, they made sure it was quiet, are reduced from the average radiation detected in space during Curiosity's cruise to Mars. So they're saying the sun was quiet and it's below average quiet activity. So in other words, this is low. It's higher typically. Red arrows point to the spikes in the radiation dose rate, which would be the most dangerous to astronauts, okay? And I'm going to show you that. So if we're in Mars to research and explore, every 26 minutes, you have to be going back to your underground tunnel. So that means you can only leave your shelter for 13 minutes and then start to go back to get there. So how far are you going to get with your exploration? And again, this was measured with quiet solar activity. It's actually worse than this. Okay, shelter. NASA's ice house, because you want to come home to an ice house when it's minus 100 outside, right? That sounds good. Outer shell of thick ice. Apparently hydrogen-rich material is a good protector from the solar radiation. Mars does not have a magnetosphere like Earth. So this should reduce radiation exposure while allowing light to pass through walls. Insulation will be CO2 to manage inside temperatures. And so, ladies, we will never have to shop again. We are going to all wear the same thing. And you see a little vehicle off to the side. Here's what the inside of it looks like. IBO is a little robot that sprays water fiber aerogel composite and creates a structurally sound, insulated, and translucent wall. And IBO also goes outside and tries to find water under the ground to then bring in for you to drink. So there's your life. Your life is dependent on that little thing climbing your wall. Okay, walls will be your garden, growing leafy greens to eat. And if you've seen, National Geographic had lettuce and carrots are doing the best. Who could live on lettuce and carrots?
A rabbit.
So we should send a rabbit up there, right? Okay, water. Water, 2017, the big deal was can we find water on Mars? And it's still the big deal. Dark streaks appearing in spring and summer, but fading in fall, winter, was this evidence of seeping water. And this was on a crater wall, and this became a big deal. So here's the conclusion to what they did. I'm sorry, it was 2016. Test for damp ground at Mars seasonal streaks finds none. Thermal imaging reveals an upper limit on how much water is present in these darkened streaks, about as much as in the driest desert sands on Earth. That's like Antarctica's dry valley. So they're saying that's how much water's there. None. So you'd think we'd say, oh, well, hey, let's not go there. No, we're still going there. Okay, so they examined Mars Utopia Planitia region with the Mars orbiter. This is a shallow radar instrument because they were just sure. And here was the headline: Mars ice deposit holds as much water as Lake Superior. I remember hearing that. I remember people telling me, oh my word, they found one of the Great Lakes. The Great Lakes is up on Mars. This is great. Okay, this is what they didn't read the rest of it. Analysis of data revealed the deposit composed of 50 to 85%, huge difference, 50, half, or 85% water ice mixed with dust or larger rocky particles. So you either have half water, half dirt, which would be mud, right? Or 85% water with this dirt. But here's the problem with the dirt. Martian dust and soil contain high amounts of perchlorate, which is harmful. It's actually toxic to humans. It's used for rocket fuel. So I don't care if there's one piece of poison in the water. I'm not drinking it, right? It doesn't matter if it's 50 to 85%. So they saw that as good news. Okay, plans to terraform, make Earth like Mars, change the atmosphere by melting the polar ice caps, and some of the ideas are to bomb it, or to hold a mirror that will reflect the sun onto the polar caps to melt them and release the CO2 to initiate huge global warming, and then we will seed the soil with living organisms. Does that sound like we're God? I think we're here. Come, let us build ourselves a city, and a tower whose top is in the heavens. Let us make a name for ourselves. One magazine, he was interviewing somebody from NASA, and he said, it's about cosmic superiority. God is the only one that's superior in the universe. And here we're racing against other countries. And to make a planet, that's God. Okay, Jupiter, named after the fake god of gods. For you, Lord, are high above all the earth. You are exalted above all gods. He's, of course, the only true God. But even if you believe in the fake, he is far above them. You know, I listened to a speaker. He has taught world religions for 20-some years. He said what's so amazing is you look at Allah, Shiva, Buddha. Their followers have to build a bridge to them. I sacrifice, I give food to rats or whatever. I mean, I am building the bridge to the God to appease that God. And Jesus our God built the bridge to us in the shape of a cross. He said we're the only one. Jesus is the only God that builds a bridge to humans. Okay, here's Jupiter. Ammonia atmosphere, radiation zone 20,000 times stronger than Earth and extends 600 million miles. Outside, this is the second largest object in our solar system. The sun's heliosphere is the largest, and then Jupiter. And because of that radiation zone, Juno, the little orbiter that's going there, I think it's every 2 months it takes a quick pass Jupiter so it doesn't fry its electronics. Here's one day on Jupiter. So look at the belts The bands are going different directions, different speeds. And you see the big red spot is a big cyclone. Okay, kids, NASA does not have a creative naming department. And they actually love to hear from kids. In fact, it was a little 11-year-old girl who named Opportunity and Spirit. Okay, great red spot. Okay, that was like 300 years ago. We've seen that spot. So then in 2006, a new one, and they said, well, I guess we just call it Red Spot Junior. Well, then a few years ago, you see the one on the left? What could they do but name it New Spot? So help them. Help them. Because, you know, they got their minds on all this other stuff. So help them with creative names. Okay, so here you see the spots have moved. You see the great red spot in the middle, and then Junior's to the right, and New is to the left. So you can see, but here's a more clear image from Juno. Look at those clouds, the details. I mean, God is creative in a planet, you know, we're never going to go to. And so, but he knew we were going to have telescopes and satellites, and we're going to be seeing these things, and he said he's going to even make those beautiful. Look at this. These are cloud tops. This was just last year. This is the South Pole, and each of those white pearls or spots are cyclones. Here's the southern aurora in infrared. It's just gorgeous. And to think, you know, I mean, this is nothing to him. He says it, he speaks it, and it takes place. And so how much more does he want us to give him control of our lives? Okay, Io, kids, do you see mozzarella cheese, olives, and sun-dried tomatoes in that picture? I told them, I said, there's a pizza moon. It's in this presentation. Over 400 volcanoes add to Jupiter's toxic atmosphere. This is Io. There's no craters on Io. Like I said, it's mozzarella cheese. Here's Prometheus, the 50-mile-high plume known as Old Faithful, has been active for 18 years, and you see it at the top. Okay, and here's what NASA scientists Io. Your volcanoes are in the wrong place. The unexpected eastward offset of the volcano locations is a clue something is missing in our understanding of Io. See, a lot of times when we hear these reports, I heard there's one some telescope just took a picture of the black hole in the middle of our galaxy. A lot of times they do that because they want to look like we've got it figured out, but we really are still learning. So just kind of keep that in mind. There's a lot we still don't know. Okay, here's Europa. So Jupiter has a planet of fire and a planet of ice. And it came from a gas giant. Like Io, this moon lacks impact craters. And so these cracks, they show material from beneath rising to the surface and surface material flowing back down. So it kind of looks like ice road truckers, right? Looks like little roads. But they think there's water underneath there because something's moving. It's dynamic. Okay, Comet Shoemaker-Levy in July 1994 was pulled in by Jupiter, acted as a net between us and space, pulling asteroids in with its strong gravitational force. Dr. Guillermo Gonzalez is an Christian creationist, an astrobiologist, and he said he believes this shows purpose and placement. It keeps the asteroids, Jupiter keeps it close and moving. And if you've ever seen The Privileged Planet, this is one of the requirements for life on Earth, is that there is some giant planet out there pulling in these asteroids. Okay, Saturn, named after the fake god of harvest, one like the Son of Man, having on his head a gold crown and in his hand a sharp sickle, and he that sat on the cloud thrust in his sickle, and the earth was harvested. Our God is the only one who's going to harvest the earth. We're not getting off Earth any other way, not by our works, wishing it. It's him. We belong to him. He made this for us. He has a plan. Okay, here, Saturn, 75,000 miles in diameter without the rings. It's huge. It's a source of intense radio emissions. Those clouds are revolving at 1,000 miles per hour. It used to be believed before we sent orbiters out to the other planets that the further away from the sun we were, there would be less energy, and instead, more energy. In fact, Neptune has the most energized clouds. Where does it get its energy? If you remove God from the equation, you're left with that. So here's Saturn in ultraviolet. It is our least dense planet, could float in water. Guess which planet is the densest? Yeah, see, God has a sense of humor. Saturn in X-ray. We're not sure what those fluorescent lights are. Here it is in infrared. And infrared is heat, so there's no heat in the rings. And we're going to look at a close-up of those rings. Saturn's north pole features hexagonal storm 20,000 miles wide with 200-mile-per-hour winds, and it's in the shape of a hexagon. Now down here, when our winds start circling, I mean, they're circled. They don't stay in a hexagonal shape. Look at, here it is. It rotates at the same speed as the planet. So that's a storm in the middle. I know it looks like a belly button. So here it is in infrared, 2,200 miles across. Imagine the storm. Okay, so here's the changing color baffles NASA. So you see in 2012 it was blue, and now in 2016 yellow. Big change, little time. The change in color baffles NASA scientists as they struggle to understand what caused the drastic changes in Saturn's surface. How does it change color? What drove that? What does it mean? Okay, now we're going to hear the rings. Ready? That sound weird? Yeah. When we were getting ready, somebody thought that was like, it was supposed to be a normal sound, and it was static. And I said, no, that is the sound. Yeah. So we're going to hear what a moon sounds like. But yeah, it's that. But did you notice there's a pattern? Okay, this is close up of B ring. Now look at these you got to see these are sharp, like corrugated. Corrugated roof or cardboard, but I mean it goes up, down, up, down. But look at how the colors, it's broken up into colors, and it's just, look at that. That's supposed to be random ice and rocks. And look, does that look like ice and rocks? It's very patterned. And of course our God is a God of mathematics, of precision, of patterns, recognizable, predictable. These mysterious spokes, we don't even know what they are, will take years to understand. See, we are not ahead of God. He is so ahead of us. And it's fascinating. Heaven will be never-ending study of the universe. But Jesus is going to be our teacher. I can't wait. Okay, when the sun set on Saturn's rings, this is August 2009, the Cassini mission, which, that's over. But when Cassini was up there, I think 13 years, they were watching closely. It was the equinox when the sun illuminates the planet's enormous ring system edge on. The models correctly predicted how the rings would cool as they fell into darkness. So that makes sense. They're facing the sun, then when they go behind the planet, they cool off. Except A ring was warmer than the models predicted. Whoa, warmer, and it's not cooler. So this particular result is fascinating because here's what the scientists said. Because it suggests the middle of Saturn's A ring, and there's the A ring right here, this part, it has to be much younger than the rest of the rings. How did a young ring get in the middle of old rings? Doesn't make sense. For one thing, the rings of Saturn can't be more than a few 100 million years old. We've gone from 4.6 billion to a few 100 million. That's a huge leap. And this is an evolutionary scientist saying because they would have flung off. They would have gone away. And here's another one. This is, I think he's from Croatia. I watched his SETI talk. He said, for decades, researchers argued the rings must be much younger than Saturn because they should spread out. And now you went to 100 million. Now we're down from a few 100 million to 100 million. Infalling dust would pollute them, changing their pure icy condition. They would look kind of smudgy and dark. But they're so white and bright, they have to be young. So we've gone from 4.6 billion to 100 million. Whoa. While a variety of features in Saturn's many rings display marked changes over multiple years, so now it's just now a few years, the F ring seems to change on a scale of days and even hours. We've gone from billion to million to a few to now hours. Big changes, little time. Prometheus. Okay, so Prometheus looks like a flying potato. So I'm going to show you, it's going to bump up against this ring, and you tell me if this looks like ice and rocks. It's going to turn off. Think of this as a little video from 800 million miles away. Okay, look what it's doing, pulling part of that ring with it. So now we're going to look at the one, we're going to look at above. So Prometheus is in the inside. You'll see it. And then Pandora is another moon, that'll be on the outside. And can you see it's pulling material from the ring as it goes around? And here's the wake they leave. Does that look like ice and rocks? I think it looks like water. I mean, it's kind of Yeah, so what's going on there? Okay, Saturn's moons. And this, I love this guy. This is Radwan Tajadeen. He says, it takes one good spacecraft, me and Cassini, to tell us how wrong we were in the past. Don't you love him? He's saying we're wrong. He's a Cornell research associate on these Saturn's moons. Here's what he says. After 4.6 billion years, the moons would be much further away from Saturn due to their current migration rates. Some scientists estimate the moons can be only 100 million years old. See, we keep coming across young solar system. We hit it, and we have to admit, it's not adding up. It's younger. And I applaud those scientists that admit that. Okay, kids, here is something we can do in heaven. This is so cool. Look to the left of your screen. You're going to see a moon named Daphnis, and it is flying through that little space, and those waves are a mile high. Imagine surfing mile-high waves, and you go round and round, and it doesn't matter if we fall off. That's going to be cool. And here's a guy. He just put it in visual simulation so we could see what it looks like. He has a cool job. Okay, Enceladus. Minus 135 in the south polar region, surrounded by minus 330 degrees. They call them tiger stripes. They call them hot. Minus 135 is warm compared to the surrounding. When Cassini was up there, it looked at this little golf ball of a moon and saw something coming out the bottom, and it was sent to go over there and taste it. And you've all tasted it. What do you think it is? What do you like to put on your food when you eat it? Salt. Salt water is coming out. There's like 30 geysers coming out. And here's what those sound like. While Cassini was over there, they said, well, taste it, and let's hear what it sounds like. Now, did anybody hear those two jazz notes at the top? Right? I heard it. But isn't it interesting that it's very different, and it's what these geysers sound like. Okay, backlit by the sun, Enceladus' color-enhanced plume reveals its enormous extent. What looked like to us just a few sprays, but when you look at it, it really goes far out there. And I always tell kids, no matter how small or young you are, you can make a difference in your world. It can be your family, your neighborhood, your friends, your school, but you can make a difference. Never, Paul told Timothy, don't let them look down on you because you're young. Okay, Cassini confirmed Enceladus' geysers created Saturn's E-ring. That little moon created an entire ring. Look at the difference it made in its world, and that's us. Christians, we can make a difference in our world. Okay, Iapetus is Saturn's third largest moon with an orbit that is different from the other moons. It looks like it has dirt on its face. Look at this one. Looks like a giant sponge. If all these moons if they were just flung off debris from a planet, why aren't they made from the same composition? They're not. And of course, this is coming from Saturn, which is primarily gas. Look at the largest crater here, 75 miles across. Titan, we're very excited about Titan because it's the only moon with an atmosphere. Here it is in natural colors. And what looks like lake shore terrain with islands. They think it's a methane lake because of the freezing level or limits. Those are mostly up in the north, and there's clouds around it, mainly on the southern hemisphere. So we dropped a probe when we sent Cassini up there, and look what it looks like. It looks like a dry riverbed on Earth. I mean, when we expect like ice or snow or something bizarre looking, and look how it looks, it could be here. Earth is seen from Saturn 886 million miles away. Without God, we are an insignificant speck. Some of you remember Carl Sagan. He wrote that book, A Pale Blue Dot. And he says, we're nothing. When we look there's this little dot, and that's us. We're dots on a dot. And he even in his book said, there's no one is coming to rescue us. He said, there's no hope that someone else is coming, like we're on our own. How sad. Wow. And here, without God, we are. I mean, it would look that way, but with God, we are the greatest demonstration of his love. Remember, Israel was the least of the nations. Earth is tiny, and yet this is the lost sheep for who he died. Okay, Uranus, named after the fake god of the sky. Your love, O Lord, reaches to the heavens, your faithfulness to the skies. He came from heaven. He lived on earth as a human. He returned to heaven. He's coming back to get us. His love and faithfulness reaches to the universe. It is high above us. Uranus is our coldest planet, does not emit any heat. This is a very interesting planet. Each pole faces the sun for 42 years. Voyager 2 found the pole facing the sun was cooler than the equator behind it. Now, how does that work? It's facing the sun, and yet so it's colder than behind it. So you think when it's facing the sun, that would be warmer. And this is from a physics department at a university. Uranus should not even have a magnetic field, and yet it does. The magnetic field source is unknown. The electrically conductive superpressurized ocean of water and ammonia, once thought to lie between the core and the atmosphere, now appears to be non-existent. So it doesn't even have the mechanics for a magnetic field, and yet it has one. The spin axis of Uranus is tilted 98 degrees. You see that going across. And the magnetic field is 59. You see how it's very odd. Scientists thought these tilts would give Uranus a very strange magnetosphere, but guess what? The magnetosphere of Uranus is pretty much normal. If you ever feel like you're out of sync with the rest of humanity, like there's something weird about you, no. In God's eyes, you're right on. Okay, Neptune, named after the fake god of the sea. Then Jesus arose and rebuked the winds and the sea, and there was a great calm. But the men marveled, saying, "What manner of man is this that even the winds and the sea obey him?" And look at the people in the boat. They're not his disciples. They're you and me. Neptune's great dark spot. See, kids? They just changed the middle word. Great red spot, great dark spot. Help them. It's the size of Earth. The winds can reach up to 1,500 miles per hour. They emit 2.6 times as much heat as it receives from the sun. It sends out more than it receives. And wouldn't that be great? The Christian calling is to give more than we receive. Where does it get its energy? So what do the planets teach us about science? Okay, Mercury's liquid iron core, young solar system. Venus advanced our knowledge of the solar system, plus showed young planet. Martian moons question lunar evolution theories. Jupiter's size and gravity reveals a purpose for its placement in our solar system. Saturn's rings and moons, big changes in little time. Illogical magnetic field and polar temps. Are there different laws of physics outside of Earth? And Neptune, furthest from the sun but has the strongest winds. What is its energy source? Now, you're all going to go, whoa. So I stopped it so I could explain to you what it is. Okay, an orrery is a mechanical replica of the solar system. But now we're in the digital age. A young man who received his astronomy degree from the U of W, Ethan, he and I emailed. He was very excited I was going to share this with you. So what he did was, we see exoplanets. And exoplanets are planets just outside of our solar system. I think all the ones we've seen so far are in the Milky Way. And because we're looking for the habitable zone, they call it Goldilocks zone. Not too hot, not too cold. So you'll see up here, this is our solar system for comparison, and it's only the inner planets, okay? So here's our sun, and here's Mercury, Venus, and Earth, okay? So Kepler is looking at planets, exoplanets, that revolve around their star within this closeness. And a lot of these are even closer to their sun than Mercury. So that's what you're going to see, and I'm going to initiate this clip, and you're going to see all of these revolving around their star, and you're going to feel dizzy. But I want you to look and see, I showed you how unique our planets are. You tell me, is our solar system also unique? Okay, so, whoops. Okay. I just got to move this. Okay, there we go. Okay. So I'm going to minimize it. Oh. Sorry, I don't have my reading glasses on, so I'm blind here. Okay, so here's my orrery. Oh, here it is. Okay, and it's going to get bigger. It's going to show up little, and then it'll get big. Okay, there you go. So look at all these planets going around their sun. Some of them are going around two suns. Look at this. They're like Pluto and Charon. Here's one. Here's two planets going around each other while going around their star. So tell me, is our solar system unique? It is. In fact, I do have a whole presentation on the exoplanets, and the scientists, I quote them saying, we don't want to be different. We want to be like all the other solar systems out there. We want to know that the planets that we see out there, they're mini Jupiters and hot Earths, or let's see, hot Jupiters, mini Neptunes, and super Earths. Those planets are not seen in our solar system. These are completely different bodies going around their stars. So God made sure that we know we are unique. Okay, let's see. Close. So, here we go. So, what do the planets teach us about life in Jesus? Because that's what it comes down to. Our word for planets comes from the Greek word planetes, which means wanderer. Ancient people were aware of the same planets we can watch across the night sky with the naked eye: Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. They called them wandering stars, and there's 4 of them right there. In a warning about godless people, Jude used clouds without rain, trees without fruit, wandering stars to describe them. Think about it. Empty clouds, empty trees, empty stars. Is God's word telling us when we choose not to surrender to Christ, we are like these barren planets in our solar system? So much potential and beauty and uniqueness on the outside, but utterly devoid of the life only our Creator can give. When you line up the planets, we are the planet of life, and the others really are dead planets. We continue to send orbiters and rovers to other planets looking for evidence of life, but a first century spirit-inspired man already knew they were empty. Think about that. First century, no telescope. He used them as a comparison with empty clouds, empty trees. They're empty. There's no life out there because God made life on earth. If God's word has proven it speaks the truth about our physical world, wouldn't it also speak the truth about our spiritual world? If the Bible predicted scientific facts centuries before man knew them, it can predict signs of Christ coming centuries before they happen. We are left with a choice. Either the Bible is truth, inspired by a real personal God, or tales written by men. And if truth, then we're left with the most important choice of all. What will you and I do about Jesus? And here's what he says. I have set before you life and death, blessings and cursings. Choose life. We have a planet of life. We're made in his image, filled with his life. Choose life. Thank you.
Thank you, Maureen.
Oh, you're welcome. Whoops.
You presented us with a lot of different facts there. How much of this did you read in your science books? How much of this were you taught in school? None of it, right?
That's right.
A lot of new facts there. So we're going to take some time for Q&A, but also, while you're thinking of your question, we do support this ministry through your free will offerings. So those of you that would like to help us to do that, the men will be around in a minute, and you can do that. There's also donation boxes in the back table. If you'd rather do it there and donate there, that's fine too. So, questions?
Oh.
What happened to Pluto?
You know, Pluto was kicked out of the Planet Club, and you saw the protesters, remember? Yeah, and as a short person, I kind of, just because he was little, can't. But here's some of the reasons. Okay, so the planets, when they rotate around the sun, it's clear, like they're not going through asteroids, whereas Pluto is in the Kuiper Belt. And so there's a lot of, debris. And there's other planets, when I say bodies, that are similar in size to Pluto. Also, Pluto, one of the definitions of a planet is that its moons, if it has moons, they revolve around the planet. But Pluto and Charon revolve around each other. So here's the moon, here's the planet. So it really didn't fit the criteria for a planet. It's in an area where there's lots of bodies around there, and so they decided it's not really a planet. It's just, was it Mickey's dog? Right. Oh, they call it a dwarf planet. They do call, but there's other dwarf planets up there. I think they found 2 or 3 of them. So, yeah.
Just a quick question.
Sure.
Did you see this week, it came out on one of my Twitter or Facebook feeds, a story, and I don't recall the author, but they have supposedly found now a pocket of underground water on Mars. Have you seen that?
I saw under the South Pole, they said there's something bright miles in there and they want to get a drill up there. I'd love to see that, to drill down there. But all they saw was a bright object. So they're leaping, because do you remember the headline, life found on Mars, and they found carbon. That's not life. Okay, same thing, bright spot under South Pole, oh my word, let's hope it's water. But they do that. Remember, a lot of it's driven by funding. So yes, I did see that, and I looked it up, and I read everything I could on it. And I spend most of my time on evolutionary sites because I want them to say it, because for me, they should speak for themselves. And yeah, they even said, it's just a bright spot. We need to be careful that we're not saying it more than it is. But they're hoping, because then it would justify, I guess in their eyes, going to Mars. But Bill Nye called it a suicide, trip. I mean, yeah, it's yeah. Anyway, so yes.
I think I read an article recently about the sounds coming from Saturn, those rings, at the same frequency as the sounds whales make.
I think you're talking about Louis Giglio, and he did a really cool thing with some stars and quasars and whales, and he had people singing. He slowed a few of them down, but he had people singing about kind of like how great thou art. Or it might not be that song, but it was a song to Jesus. Yeah, that's where you're getting that. I've never heard that they were the same. I heard all of nature's in the key of C, but as far as being the exact sound, but I think that's what you're referring to, and it's beautiful. Check it out. Louis Giglio with whales and stars. It's a beautiful, beautiful clip.
Not a question, just a interesting fact. I don't know if you know this, but Cassini, that she was talking about that went to Saturn, the rocket engines and the fuel tank and all that were built by Aerojet in Redmond, Washington.
Ah.
I don't know if you know that. And
no.
I had the privilege of holding the pressure transducers in my hand that are now somewhere on Saturn's surface in gaseous form.
So
it's kind of cool.
It is. But was it hard for you to watch them send it into crash mode?
No. I thought it was pretty cool because of all the years, and it actually worked. It's amazing. If you ever get a chance to visit or know of someone from Aerojet, that you can get in and see all the satellite rocket engines they built. The Mars rover and all kind and many of them that are still out there flying out of the solar system by this time even.
Great. Thank you. That was great to know. We can be proud of our state.
One question here. Well, we have time for a few more questions still.
And then I have a question for our young scientist. While he's asking me a question, think, what was your favorite part of what you saw up there? Okay. As soon as he asks this question, Ella, right? Okay.
Yeah, since regular sound requires a medium to transmit itself, were those magnetic fluctuations that they were recording?
They were radio waves, yeah. So they're on the electromagnetic spectrum, not sound, yes. And of course, that's a great question because you hear the vacuum of space, so where was the media for the sound to travel? Yeah, it was done with the radio waves, yeah. Very good. Okay, Ella, what was your favorite part? Oh, the spots, yes. The creative naming department, the lack of. Yes. All right. What about Annika? Did you have a favorite? No? Okay. Was there anything that surprised you? How about the sound? Yeah, what surprised you? Anything that you heard or saw? You can tell your dad if you want, if you don't want to say anything. Yeah, tell your dad, and he'll tell us.
Let's take another question here while they're thinking about that. Then.
Do you have anything on the recession of the moon and how old would it really be?
Yeah, it would be farther, wouldn't it? Because it's is it how many inches a year? Is it? Yeah, okay, centimeters, so it's not even inch, yeah. But you're right, if it was 4.6 billion years, it would be very much further away, wouldn't it? He's talking about the moon's migration, because you heard about Saturn's moons, yeah, they'd be much further, yeah. In other words, the evidence is out there if you want to see it, isn't it? Yeah. Does she have something? No? Okay, no problem. Well, thank you so much.
Okay, do we have, put up your hand if you have another questions. We have a few minutes here yet. We can do that. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, do you give this lecture at a quarter speed?
Do I give this lecture at slower speed?
Quarter.
Oh, quarter speed. Yeah, I do get asked that a lot. I can go slower. There was when we lived in Sequim, there was nursing homes, and they loved to, because they saw they lived through this going to space, outer space for the first time. But I found out when the lights go out, they fell asleep. So it didn't matter. They asked me to speak very slowly. Well, they were all asleep. So anyways, that's the closest I've come to talking slowly. Okay, this young lady also has a question, and that young man.
Remember, the lectures are recorded, and you can look online and run them at whatever speed you want.
Go roar!
Well, I don't know if I really have a question. It was more just to see if you have any information on this mysterious planet.
Oh, Planet X?
Yeah.
Yeah, Planet X. If you like watching documentaries, my husband and I watch a lot of them, and there's one called Secrets of the Solar System, done by BBC, features UK and I think one or two American scientists, but international scientists working together, and they talk about why it's important they find Planet X. It's so a theory works. But no, they have not found it. So they think it's out there, that's right. God's not out there, but Planet X is out there. I know, in my presentation on Earth Sciences, we have those radio satellites. We're looking for a pattern out there of, intelligence, and yet we don't think there's anything down here. There's no intelligence here, but it's out there. But really, if God, let's just say God answered them, sent some, mathematical equation back, and so they know it wasn't typical static, what would they do? Because if they've shut him out, why would they listen to an intelligence from out there? It just seems odd that it can't be God and it has to act this way and then we'll listen to it. It's so sad. So,
I was wondering if you have any book recommendations for kids.
Oh, for kids. Heinz, out there on those tables, there are some good books for young kids. And I don't know who Heinz, what are the writers, the authors, but I've looked at some and they're great. There's some like, creation answers for kids, or I saw a website called Rainbow Resource. I know they specialize in homeschool kids, but you can look through the books here, whereas when you're ordering them, you kind of have to hope it's what you think. But I would definitely check out those, and he's a wealth of information.
Yeah, there's a lot of books and DVDs out there. You can look there afterwards, and they will cover a lot of the topics that you are interested in. And if they're not out there, there's 3 creation organizations who put out a lot of material, and I'm sure they'll have answers. Also, I should mention on our website, apologeticsforum.org, there's a menu item which is called Find Answers. And the whole intent of that is to be able to type in your question, whatever question you have, and you'll get all kinds of biblical answers from that.
And also, I just wanted to add Illustra, I-L-L-U-S-T-R-A, Illustra. They make the DVDs, but it's quality. Because a lot of times, if it was made low budget, it looked low budget and people didn't take it seriously. But Illustra is up there with National Geographic in quality, and it's, design and creation for butterflies, and a flight is about birds, how they fly. I mean, it's fantastic. Get your kids hearing that in their heads, and they won't be so thrown when they're older.
I have a neighbor who says that we have not been to the moon, that it was staged.
I've heard that.
I'm stunned when I hear it. I know there's a flag up there. What's the best comeback to that?
Are they Christian or non-Christian?
He's a Christian.
Okay, so at least one of those astronauts, a few were strong Christians. Would they be living a lie? That's what was asked to me, because I watched the show that it's fake, and of course they show the photographs and saying, here's this astronaut in front of the sun, so it should just be a silhouette. Instead, you can see the symbol on his suit, and oh my word, it had to be fake, and it has to be, was it Area 54 or 52, whatever that's called? They said that's. But the question was, would Christians be living a lie for decades? When you think about it, the more people that hold a secret, the less likely it's going to be kept, as we know, right? There's whistleblowers, and you really, secrets have to be kept to very few people. And look at how many people, hundreds if not thousands of people involved in getting to the moon, and really none of them are talking. But my thing was the Christian, and I don't remember the name of the really strong. Was it John Glenn or anyway? Strong Christian. Yeah, would they be living? Okay, Alan Shepard. Okay, would he live that lie? So that's why I asked if your neighbor is a Christian or not. If they're not a Christian, then that wouldn't be a good argument. So they also said, wasn't it a Russian orbiter saw what do we have? We have a few Jeeps down there, up on the moon, but there was the crash of one of the things. They said they could see it and they took a picture, and there is something there. Oh, exactly. They'd be saying, exactly, they'd want to tell us, everybody, the world, hey, the U.S. is lying about all this whole thing, you bet. And here they confirmed it with a picture. There you go, good point, right there.
Tell your neighbor I can confirm that it happened. Oh. We were actually in Holland at the time in July of 1969, and I saw it on Dutch TV. It wasn't shown on, I wasn't watching CNN, so I know it happened.
Dutch TV, who knew?
Just an interesting observation in the design of the lunar excursion modules, they had the huge feet.
Yes.
Because of the millions of years of dust that was supposed to be 10,
supposed
12,
to be there.
15 feet of dust.
That's right.
And they hit a quarter inch.
Yeah.
So it had to be extremely young.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. That, like I said, the evidence keeps arising, and we have to keep saying reject or embrace. Yeah.
Okay, if there's no more questions, we'll wrap this up. If there's another, she will be here for a while yet to answer any other questions you might have, of course. And let's just thank her for the presentation.
Thank you. Praise the Lord.
One thing that Maureen mentioned was, or somebody asked a question about flight intricacies. Well, it so happens that Dr. Andy McIntosh, that's his expertise, and he's going to be here in September speaking on that very topic at this forum meeting in September. I noticed there's a few homeschool groups here. We have a speaker coming in December who was here before, 2 years ago, Pat Roy. Some of you may have heard of him, but he ministers to homeschool groups. And so we're going to have him here. He's going to be speaking at the forum in December, and he's also going to be available to address different homeschool groups. And we'll get some information on our website about that. And if you have an interest in that, do let us know, and we'll let you know when he's going to be available. Yeah, it's Friday, December the 7th, and he'll be here from Wednesday through to that Sunday of that week. So keep that in mind as well. You can, all that information you can see on the speaker availability page on our website. So next month we have Mike Rill coming back, and he's going to speak on 4 power questions to ask an evolutionist. And I think you'll find those very interesting questions, because if you ask somebody that believes in evolution, how do you answer these questions? They can't. It's like asking Dawkins, where did the information in the DNA come from? He's stumped. There is no naturalistic answer for that at all. And Mike has these 4 questions. You can see them on the screen. Where did the matter come from to create the universe in the first place? If it came from nothing, how did life originate? And from science, we can show that life cannot originate from non-life in a naturalistic means. Where are the transitional fossils? Turns out there aren't any real transitional fossils. They're contrived transitional fossils because they assume that evolution is true, and they say, well, that's how they fit into this tree of life, but it just doesn't work. So we conclude, Mike will conclude, and we've concluded in many talks here, that evolution cannot be defended scientifically. And that's a true scientific statement. So that's what we have on the next month. And Mike will be here for 5 days speaking at different venues. And again, all that information is on the website. The flyer on his talk that you see up here is, again, on the back table. Avail yourself of that and post it in your church foyer if you can, to let others know about that. And the 2 creation training courses that I talked about earlier, they're also on the back table. So on the back table are a lot of the flyers that will help you to keep apprised. In the back again, we have the book tables, both the Apologetics Forum and the CAPS book tables. Take a look at that. I'm sure it'll be something that might interest you. That we have on the Apologetics Forum table, we have a DVD called Fallout, put out by Creation Ministries International, and it interviews college students who used to go to church, and then when they went to a secular college, they fell away from the faith. And the interview is just 25 minutes long, answers the questions of why they left. They are indoctrinated with evolution and secularism, and they don't get questions or answers to the hard questions that they ask. And you might, if you have an interest in that DVD, it's available free. All you have to do is promise to listen to it, and when you finish listening to it, pass it on to somebody else. So they're on our table back there. Also remember that we do have live streaming. All of these meetings are live streamed. I don't know how many people are watching now, but they're all live streamed. So if you have friends who are not in town here close by and they want to listen to it, let them know about that. And as I said, all of these lectures are recorded, video recorded, and they're all on the website as well. So if you want to listen to it again, feel free to do so. So with that, let me just conclude this and spend some time looking at the resources, and there's refreshments over there as well. Father, we just come to you just to thank you for this time we had together here. We thank you for Maureen and for what she has shared with us, the many facts that we just did not know about our solar system. And we indeed are a unique system with a planet specially designed for life. And we just thank you for that information, for that evidence. We thank you for speakers like Maureen who are willing to share this information with us. And we just ask for your blessings on the gatherings outside, and thank you for your time. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.